Welcome back, Wayfarer. I feel privileged to have you accompanying us again on tonight's journey. I hope you find restful sleep and a peaceful night. You have travelled far from the salt spray of the coast and the hushed stone of the library. Tonight, the air is softer, carrying the cool, green breath of the valley floor. Before we begin our walk toward the mill, take a moment to find your own center. Settle deep into the weight of your bed. Feel the gravity pulling at your limbs, grounding you, letting you sink further away from the day's demands. Close your eyes and take a slow, deliberate breath. As you exhale, imagine the tension leaving your body like mist rising off a river, thinning, drifting, and finally vanishing into the night. You are safe. You are exactly where you belong. Tonight, our path follows the water. We are walking along the mill race, a man-made channel cut deep into the earth centuries ago to divert a portion of the river's strength. Out here, the world is a symphony of fluid motion. To your right, the main river rushes over mossy boulders with a chaotic white noise tumble. But here, in the race, the water is different. It is deep, dark, and focused. It moves with a silent, glass-like urgency, pulled by the inevitable gravity toward the wheel. You can smell the valley in the twilight, the sharp and peppery scent of crushed river mint, the damp, loamy aroma of ferns, and the clean mineral tang of wet stone. The path beneath your feet is soft, padded with needles from the towering hemlocks that line the water's edge. Your footsteps are silent here, allowing the voice of the water to become your only guide. As you approach the mill, the sound begins to change. The random splashes of the river are replaced by a deep, rhythmic thrum. It is a vibration you feel in your chest before you hear it with your ears. It is the sound of a machine coming to life. Not a machine of metal and oil, but one of timber, water, and time. You round the corner of the stone millhouse, and there it is. the Great Wheel. It is a massive construction of oak and elm, nearly 20 feet high, dripping with emerald green moss and glistening in the fading light. This is an overshot wheel, the most powerful of its kind. You stand on the wooden gantry looking down at the lade, the wooden flume that carries the water directly over the top of the wheel. You watch as the dark water spills over the edge, falling in a perfect shimmering curtain into the wooden buckets. You listen to the sound of the buckets filling. It is a hollow, percussive chock, chock, chock as the weight of the water is captured. You see the wheel hesitate for a fraction of a second, as if considering the burden, and then with a deep, resonant groan of its oak axle, it begins to turn. The power here is immense. You are watching the weight of the river being converted into a slow, unstoppable rotation. As each bucket reaches the bottom of the ark, the water spills out in a heavy slap, back into the tail race, returning to the river from which it came. You run your hand along the handrail of the gantry, feeling the spray of fine, cool mist that settles on your skin like silk. There is a relentless, comforting regularity to it. The wheel does not hurry. It cannot be rushed. It moves with the pulse of the valley itself. You move away from the misty air of the wheel and step through the low, arched doorway of the mill. The transition is profound. Inside, the sound of the water is muffled, replaced by a subterranean hum that seems to vibrate through the very soles of your boots. This is the heart of the mill's anatomy. Before you lies the main shaft, a colossal trunk of seasoned oak, nearly 3 feet thick. It is the bridge between the world of the water and the world of the cloth. One end is locked into the center of the great wheel outside. The other extends deep into the darkness of the mill's lower floor. As the wheel turns outside, this massive beam rotates with a slow, majestic dignity. You can smell the tallow and beeswax used to grease the giant bearings. It is a thick, fatty scent that hangs in the air, mixing with the aroma of damp wood. Locked onto this shaft is the pit wheel. It is a marvel of wooden engineering. A gear 10 feet in diameter, fitted with individual teeth, carved from hornbeam or applewood. These woods are chosen because they are incredibly dense and self-lubricating. They don't splinter under pressure. You watch the teeth mesh together with a rhythmic thrum-clack, thrum-clack. You notice the craftsmanship in the gears. Unlike metal gears that screech, these wooden teeth have a soft, organic give to them. There is a warmth to the friction. You reach out carefully and touch the frame of the wheel pit. The vibration is a constant low-frequency lullaby that speaks of ancient physics. The river is pushing the wheel. The wheel is turning the shaft, and the shaft is awakening the mill. Everything is connected. We follow the power deeper into the building, moving toward the fulling floor. Here, the rotation of the waterwheel must be converted into a different kind of motion. The pit wheel turns a smaller gear called a wallower, which in turn spins the tappet shaft. This long horizontal beam is fitted with cams, large curved wooden fingers that reach out from the axle. You watch as a cam slowly rotates upward. It catches the underside of a massive wooden hammer, lifting it higher and higher against the pull of gravity. The tension in the room builds as the hammer reaches its peak, and then the cam slips away. The hammer falls. Boom. The sound is deep, percussive, and heavy. It shakes the dust from the rafters, but before the echo can even fade, the next cam is already lifting the next hammer. Boom. Thud. Boom. Thud. This is the heartbeat of the Fuller's world. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic sequence that drowns out the rest of the world. You stand in the center of the floor, surrounded by this giant wooden heartbeat. You realize that you aren't just hearing the sound. You are part of the rhythm. Your breathing starts to synchronize with the fall of the hammers. In the scriptorium, we found the silence of the page. In the cooper's yard, we found the music of the iron hoop. But here, in the fuller's mill, We have found the very pulse of the earth itself, driven by the tireless weight of the running water. You leave the primary shaft and descend a narrow set of stone steps, slick with the humidity of the river, into the hurrying floor. This is the subterranean belly of the mill, a place where the air is thick with the scent of wet stone and the heavy, sweet aroma of linseed oil. Here, the scale of the engineering becomes truly humbling. Towering above you is the great spur wheel. It is a vertical gear 12 feet in diameter, constructed entirely of heart of oak. It is held together not by iron bolts, but by massive wooden wedges that have been driven home with such force they have become part of the wood itself. You watch the teeth of the gear as they move past your eyes. Each tooth is a hand-carved block of hornbeam, chosen because its grain is so twisted and dense that it is virtually impossible to split. These teeth are the sacrificial parts of the machine. They are designed to wear down over decades, saving the main frame of the wheel from damage. You can see the fine wooden dust, the flour of the machine, settling on the floor, a testament to the years of constant friction. The sound down here is a rhythmic, low-frequency hum. It is the sound of thousands of pounds of oak meeting thousands of pounds of hornbeam. There is no metallic clink or grind here. Instead, it is a soft, organic conversation between two different types of forest. You notice a smaller gear, the wallower, which is positioned to take the power from the main vertical shaft and turn it 90 degrees. This is where the speed of the river is translated. The cooper's yard was about the circle, but the mill is about the ratio. You observe how the large gear turns slowly, with immense torque, while the smaller gear spins rapidly, hurrying the power toward the upper floors. You reach out and place your hand on one of the support beams, a massive trunk of elm that has been squared off by an adze. The vibration is immense. It's a deep, resonating pulse that travels up through your arm and settles in your chest. It feels as though the entire building is alive, a giant wooden heart beating in time with the river. You spend a moment observing the clutter adjuster, a primitive but effective wooden lever used to disengage the gears. It is polished to a high sheen by the hands of a dozen millers who came before you. By moving this lever, you can silence the mill without stopping the waterwheel, allowing the gears to coast into a peaceful standstill. But tonight, the work is in full swing. The gears are hungry for the cloth, and the power of the river is being funneled upward through the floorboards toward the heavy hammers waiting above. You climb back up the stairs, the vibration following you, and prepare yourself for the transition from the hum of the gears to the strike of the hammers. You are moving from the engine room to the theatre of the craft. Before we engage the hammers, there is a ritual of maintenance that cannot be skipped. You pick up a small wooden bucket filled with mutton tallow, rendered fat, that has been mixed with a pinch of graphite. You move among the moving parts with the practiced ease of a wayfarer. You apply a dollop of the tallow to the bearing blocks, the sections of lignum vitae, the wood of life, that act as the bushings for the heavy axles. Lignum vitae is so dense it sinks in water and is naturally oily, making it the only wood in the world capable of withstanding this kind of heat and pressure. As the tallow hits the warm, moving wood, it releases a scent that is both earthy and industrial. It creates a smooth, glassy film that silences the groans of the timber. You listen as the machine's voice shifts from a protest to a satisfied purr. This is the quieting of the friction. You watch as the tallow is pulled into the grain of the wood, darkening the oak to the colour of midnight. This is how a mill survives the centuries, not through brute strength alone, but through the constant, thin barrier of oil between the moving parts. You wipe your hands on a piece of rough linen, feeling the slickness on your skin, a physical connection to the machine. The gears are now lubricated, the ratio is set, and the power is ready to be unleashed upon the wool. You stand before the fulling stocks, the massive wooden basins where the heavy work of the mill is done. Each basin is carved from a single enormous block of elm, chosen for its ability to withstand constant moisture without rotting. Inside these basins lies the web, the long rolls of loose, raw woolen cloth that have come straight from the weaver's loom. At this stage, the wool is in the grease. It is yellowish, oily, and smells strongly of the sheep it came from. The weave is loose. You can see the individual threads of the warp and the weft. If you were to wear it now, the wind would whistle straight through the gaps. It is a fabric that has the form of a garment, but none of the soul. Then the hammers begin their work. As the tappet shaft turns, the huge wooden stocks, heavy hammers shaped like massive feet, are lifted and dropped into the basins. But they don't just crush the wool. The heads of these hammers are cut at a specific diagonal angle. Every time a hammer falls, it strikes the cloth and kicks it, causing the entire roll of fabric to rotate slightly within the basin. The sound is a wet, rhythmic thwack thump, thwack thump. You watch as the wool is pummeled and turned over and over, thousands of times. The constant agitation, combined with the warmth generated by the friction, causes the microscopic scales on the wool fibers to open up and interlock. This is the magic of felting. You are watching the fabric shrink into itself, becoming denser, thicker, and windproof. It is no longer a collection of threads. It is becoming a unified shield against the elements. As the hammers continue their relentless pace, you begin the process of scouring. To turn raw wool into something wearable, the natural lanolin and the oils added by the weaver must be stripped away. You reach for a heavy clay jar filled with a fine grey-green powder, fuller's earth. This isn't just common dirt. It is a specialized volcanic clay rich in minerals that have a natural affinity for oil. You begin to feed the clay into the wet basins. The sound of the hammers changes as the clay mixes with the water. It becomes a thicker, squelching sound. You watch the water in the basins turn a milky, opaque grey as the fuller's earth binds to the grease in the wool, pulling it out of the fibres and holding it in suspension. This is an ancient chemistry, a marriage of earth and water. You lean over the basin and the smell changes. The sheepiness vanishes, replaced by the clean, sharp scent of wet minerals and the earthy aroma of the clay. You reach into the water, carefully avoiding the path of the hammers, and pull up a corner of the cloth. It feels different now. The slipperiness of the grease is gone, replaced by a scroop, a slight tactile resistance that tells you the fibres are clean. You begin to flush the basins with fresh water from the race. You watch as the grey sludge is washed away, replaced by crystal clear river water. The cloth emerging from the suds is transformed. It is a pure, creamy white, and the weave has tightened so significantly that you can no longer see the light through it. It has become fuller, heavy, soft, and immensely strong. The heavy work is done, but the cloth is now laden with water, weighing 3 times what it did this morning. It must be dried, and it must be dried under tension to ensure it doesn't shrink unevenly. You gather the heavy, sodden rolls of wool and begin the long climb up the wooden stairs to the drying loft. As you ascend, the boom of the hammers begins to fade, becoming a muffled, rhythmic vibration in the floorboards. The air up here is warmer and much drier, catching the rising heat from the millworks below. This loft is a long, open space with high rafters and windows that catch the cross breeze from the valley. Stretching the length of the room are the tenter frames, long wooden rails fitted with hundreds of small L-shaped iron nails. These are the tenter hooks. You begin the slow, methodical work of tentering. You hook the edge of the cloth onto the top rail Then pull it down with all your strength to hook it onto the bottom. The sound is a series of small rhythmic snags as the iron bites into the thick selvage of the wool. You are stretching the fabric back to its proper width, ensuring that it dries, the fibers set in a perfect uniform grid. By the time you finish the final roll, your fingers are tired and your shoulders are heavy. You walk to the end of the loft and open a small window. From here, you can see the river winding away into the dark valley. The water that powered the mill tonight is already miles away, moving toward the sea. The mill is settling into its nighttime rhythm. Downstairs, the gears have been disengaged. The sluice gate has been dropped, and the great wheel has slowed to a rhythmic, dripping crawl. The hammers have stopped their thumping, leaving behind a silence that feels almost heavy in its suddenness. You find your rest here, in the corner of the drying loft, wrapped in a piece of finished felted wool. It is the softest thing you have ever felt. Thick, warm, and smelling faintly of the river mint and the clean earth. You lie back on a bed of dry hay, listening to the world through the wooden walls of the mill. The white noise of the river race is still there, a constant, soothing hiss that never stops. It is a sound without edges, a blanket of audio that smooths any stray thoughts of the day. You feel the slight, lingering vibration of the building, a ghost of the power that moved through it only an hour ago. The timbers are cooling, letting out the occasional creak as they settle. The air is perfectly still, moving only slightly as the cool night breeze enters through the high windows. You are no longer the Fuller, no longer the Wayfarer. You are simply a part of the valley's breath. You follow the sound of the water as it spills over the weir, down the race and back into the deep, dark current of the river. The wheel is still. The cloth is dry. The river runs on. Sleep well, Wayfarer.